So, do we want to introduce ourselves?
Please.
Well, if we want to do that, I mean, do we want to do full testimony? How do we want to go about this?
I think I would love to hear your testimony.
Okay. All right. Well,
Absolutely.
we'll start there. This will be probably the most long-winded things that we ever say because
People are going to skip the pilot and be like, what do these guys actually talk about? I've just been listening.
exactly. Because I mean, I feel like to do a testimony justice, you have to kind of go through it in its.
Well, we have a
its
clock,
entirety.
so it's just
Yeah.
on you at this point.
Yeah. Well, I'm just saying if I go for 10 minutes and you go for 60 seconds,
Yeah, I'll make you look bad.
yeah. So let's shoot for 5 to 10 minutes each. How about that?
Sounds good.
Okay. All right. Well, for me, I did not grow up in church. Grew up in a single parent home, pretty poor. Mom's income was well below the poverty line. And so, I didn't really have masculine influences. And also, I didn't really have anything to guide me, but I knew friends who had successful parents, and I was like, look, I don't want to be a statistic. I don't want to go the route of people who are in my situation that don't have a father in their life. That if you look at the stats, the vast majority of crime, of poverty, it stems from single parent homes, and I didn't want to go that route, but I didn't know how to necessarily navigate it. So I went your standard route, going to college, started community college, going to 4-year university, working while going, paying for the college out of pocket. Got a job out of college, decent one. Eventually went into investment banking, did pretty well, had to get out, and got just a normal corporate America job. And all the while, I'd been with a female, and we ended up getting married, and things were going pretty well. We were together 11 years, and things were going good. Like, had kind of that, went from poverty to that upper middle class lifestyle, house, car, dogs, all that stuff, right? So things were going really well, but I was still pretty empty, right? I'd been to church, I was one of the Christmas and Easter Christians, and I can just remember one night just having a week where didn't have a lot going on right after Christmas, nothing's going on at work, and was just completely down, nothing to do, and I'm walking my dogs, and I'm just like, look, I've accomplished all this stuff, but what is this? And I remember just kind of praying to God, like, God, give me purpose, and it wasn't like I had a relationship with God or anything like that. Well, turns out sometimes you should be careful with your prayers, because he answered 3 days later, and my wife at the time left, just came up to me and was like, I'm leaving, and it caught me completely off guard, had no idea, right? There was nothing that I could think of at the time. I mean, obviously I wasn't perfect or anything like that. I was definitely flawed in the marriage, but, it caught me completely off guard, surprised, everything. And the next day, she's there getting all her stuff, and there's no changing her mind. And, I was just, what the heck, And so I grabbed my dogs, went for a walk, had to get out of the house, and didn't get outside of eyesight of the house. And all I could see was darkness. Because it's like I built up these idols, whether it was with finance or with her or all that stuff. And I just remember crying out to God and just being like, God, if you're real, I need you right now. I need you right now. And he put this church in my head. And I'd never been to the church, didn't know the pastor, didn't know anything. He just put it in my head and got in my car and drove there. And the whole time I'm thinking I'm going crazy, right? Because I'm like, it's a Monday night. What am I doing? Going to go pray in the parking lot. Doesn't make any sense. Well, I get there, and turns out that I get there at 6:55 on a Monday, and turns out that this church is the only church where I live that offers a 7 o'clock Monday night service. And so I'm like, whoa. And I go in, and the sermon's very pertinent to me. And in the trial that I was going through, and I was just like, whoa, God's real, right? But I didn't know what that meant, right? I didn't know anything about God, really. I didn't really understand the gospel, but I knew in that moment, he's real. And so over the next 5-6 months, just started really building a relationship with God and learning about God, spending a lot of time in church, a lot of time listening to Mike Winger. I think I was listening like 5 hours to Mike Winger a day. But God still had to break down my idols. And so things got pretty bad in those 5-6 months, pretty much lost everything. And I can remember at the end of it, it was about 5-6 months in, like I said, and I got a bill from an attorney. That was like one of those bills that was like, one more of these, I'm grabbing my bug out kit, my favorite gun, and I'm going to go live out in the woods. Like, that's my plan. Like, I was seriously like, that's my plan, right? And I got mad. I got mad at God, like a Job-like sort of anger towards God. And the next day, a settlement agreement came out of nowhere that was pretty good. I got confirmation on a house that was a lottery house that, like, my name got pulled, which that's a whole story in and of itself. I got my dog back that I had for 8 years. And another thing happened that I'll talk about in a second. I just happened to pray. It was kind of a flippant prayer about, hey, God, I've been getting poured into so much. I want to start serving in the church. Just put me where you want me to be. And this guy that I didn't even know texted me and was like, hey, man, 2 of our Sunday school teachers just left. I really need you to fill in the kids ministry if you'd be willing to. And of course, I'm like, I don't want to do anything with kids. But when God answers a prayer that quickly, you just kind of say yes. And so all those things happen. And that's when it really broke me, because it was like, even though I'd given up on God, God did not give up on me.
Amen.
And that's that unilateral covenant that he has with us. It's not about these worldly blessings. It was a reminder that the greatest miracle is what he did on the cross. And it hit me like to my core. And that was the moment that actually broke. In the whole 6 months, I never broke. I never cried. It was like that determination, that will that I always had. It finally broke in that moment. And then after that, like, the restoration began. Ended up starting to go to the church that we go to. Met all my best friends. And when I got to the church, I said, hey, where do you guys need help at?
It's always going to be kids.
You know where this is going. And they said the kids ministry. So I joined the kids ministry. And I was one of 2 guys among 70 women. And it was through that kids ministry that I met my wife. And now I'm in a godly, God-focused marriage. We both seek to glorify God, and it's something that I never had before. And that prayer that I prayed 3 years ago, whatever, about giving me purpose, it's like God answered. And
has he ever?
Today.
Yeah, I was going to say, there's so many things too that I just want to talk about a little bit in your story. Like, you were so loved, and this is true of all believers, but I love when I hear this story when you didn't know God at all and you're on that walk and you get prompted to pray, where he is begging you to come in and have that moment with him as such a good father. Like, when I hear that story, and it's the immediately answered prayer, and immediately, but that first time when you get prompted, he's like, come talk to me. I have things for you. And I love that, right? Like, not even getting into predestination and things of that nature, but it's like, Jared's always been mine, and I just want to talk to him, and I just want to guide him through this. Like, your world was completely crumbling, and he said that to you. And I love that about your story, in the sense that you had nowhere to go, but he put it on your heart to come and talk to him. And I love that. And to speak to your purpose, I mean, whether it's disciple, whether it's what you do at work, because I know you crush it at work, we work for the same organization, whether it's what you do in the church for the kids ministry. I mean, you started as one of 2 guys. How many guys, including myself, have you recruited to the kids ministry now?
Yeah, I'm really good at getting guys.
you've put together multiple Bible studies. Like, you are serving. And when I moved, because we're in Charlotte, when I moved to Charlotte, I was not having a good time in Charlotte. And you grabbed me and said, hey, I got a place where I could put this guy in. And it developed into our friendship, and even standing in your wedding and doing these different things in transformation. Like, when I see you, I see someone that God prompted, and you answered every single time. And that's that following the way, that disciple that so fits for you, man, in the sense that every time that God has spoken to you, you always have that, here I am, send me, and you bring that determination to it. And he knew you so well to break you perfectly, and then to bring such beauty out of ashes is something that he can only do. So I love your testimony, man. Like, it is, he's using you exactly how you were created to be.
So if you like that video, you can watch another one right here. And if you want to see the full podcast, you can click right here. And as always, 25% of all proceeds go to missions, and you can always check us out, disciples.us.